It's a summer night, and I see my father standing out on our front porch, and he's looking at something. I come out quietly, and I wonder what's he staring at for so long. And when a car passes by on the highway that's down below our property, I see that there are some people that have erected a wooden cross. And not only that, they're still there, and they're attempting to light this cross on fire. Let me start by telling you a story about my dad, because I think by doing that, I can illustrate a particular point that I want to carry forward later about how we can resolve conflict. And this is something that I think men in particular, but all of us, men and women, need in this day and age to learn how can we resolve conflict. So the story goes like this. Many years ago, when I was a child, maybe 10, 12, it's a summer night, and I see my father standing out on our front porch, and he's looking at something. I come out quietly, and I wonder what's he staring at for so long. And when a car passes by on the highway that's down below our property, I see that there are some people that have erected a wooden cross. And not only that, they're still there, and they're attempting to light this cross on fire. Now, I want to clarify something. I mean, I'm from Midwest Ohio. This is not the Deep South. This is not the 1960s. This is not eons ago. So we're all surprised at this sort of behavior, because this is not the kind of thing that would normally happen in such a place. But nonetheless, it was happening, and I was terrified, right? My father looks at me, touches my arm just to probably comfort me, and then goes inside, right? Next thing I know, he's gone to get his shotgun, right? And we do that sort of thing in Ohio. And he goes out the back door, starts his car, and then I see him come into the front yard and fire his gun into the air, right? Next thing I know, these guys down at the end of the yard are scrambling and stuff, trying to get themselves together, get out of there. My father goes, jumps in the car, chases after him, right? My mother and I are terrified. We don't know what's happening. This is before cell phones, so it's not like we can get in touch with him or anything. So my mother calls the police, and we wait. The police arrive first. And now we're even more terrified, because we're wondering, where's my father? Where are these men that obviously had meant us harm doing this? And a little while later, a car pulls up in the driveway, and it's my dad. And he's bringing along in the back seat these men. Takes them out of the car, puts them in front of the police. And the policemen, they're very embarrassed about this whole thing. They say to us, sir, talking to my dad, do you want us to press charges? Do you want to press charges and want to, prosecute these men? And my father looks at him, he says, well, of course not. Right? These are two high school boys and a father of one of them, which probably made it a bit worse. But my father he had no desire. There was no anger. There was nothing there that indicated that he wanted to do something harmful to these people. And it puzzled me. It puzzled my mother also, right? Now, by way of background, my father was no wimp. This is not a pacifist, right? I mean, my father was about 10 years older than my mother, and I'm the youngest of 4 children by many years. So my father was approximately the age that most people my age, of the grandfather of most people of my age. So he was a World War II Silver Star winner. He was a naval amphib, which is the precursor to the SEALs. These are the guys that used to run up on the beach like in the movies and take all the heavy fire and this kind of thing. So this was not a person who was afraid or timid about anything. But his response was interesting to me, right? And I didn't really start to understand it until many years later. Now, many years later, my father is getting older, health problems are setting in, and I realize he's a bit slower than he used to be. And one of the places where that's obvious is in his driving, right? I mean, we're driving, kind of sometimes veering across the lines. He's not signaling as he should and so forth. And I remember one night my mother and father and I were in the car, and we're pulling into a restaurant. And as we get out of the car, a guy pulls up, honks on the horn, and he's shouting at us, and he's yelling all sorts of things, and including racial slurs, the N-word, and he's, what are you doing, blah, 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 blah. And he's saying all these nasty things to my dad, and my father looks at him, he says, well, I'm sorry. I don't feel the same way about you. And at that moment, all of us stood shocked. The man, my mother, Me? We couldn't believe it. And this man just froze. I mean, he had nothing to say. He just, he kind of bows his head, turns around, gets in his car, and drives off. Now, later on, I asked my dad, what's up with this? I mean, I was expecting, the naval amphib to get out there, put this guy in a headlock, and do something and everything. And he said, Reese, he said, you don't understand. You always have to understand where someone else is coming from. We don't know what was his problem, why he's doing what he's doing. All we know is that he's got a story. And our best way of resolving conflict is to try to figure out that story. If we respond the same way that someone with aggression is acting towards us, we're never going to resolve a conflict. Hi, this is Tony. Thanks for checking out my videos. If you'd like more of this content where I use behavioral science tools to help you develop personal hacks so that you can improve your life, your professional life, your family life, etc., then please consider becoming a regular subscriber. Also, if you're familiar with Patreon, please consider visiting my Patreon page and helping sponsor. My goal here was originally to bring many of the tools that I use in advising major corporations, CEOs, and boards to a wider audience of people. And one way that you can help me do that is by becoming a patron. So until next time, please hack yourself.